Hello, I'm Husain, and I'm gonna demonstrate the basic animation principles in After Effects. So, in this video, we're gonna learn the animation principles which are used in After Effects, and by the end of this video, you're gonna be familiar with animating the position, scale, rotation, and opacity of objects. So let's get started. Okay, so to understand how to animate objects in After Effects and add motion to graphics, you'll be first needed to understand these basic animation principles and how they work in After Effects. So I have a project open here, and if I hit spacebar to preview it, you can see that there are four shapes: a rectangle, a circle, a polygon, and a star, and different animation properties are applied to it. So in After Effects, there are four key animation principles: the position, the scale, the rotation, and opacity. Now, the key thing to learn in animation is how to animate the position, the scale, rotation, and opacity of any object or media type. So in the composition panel here, you can see that the rectangle is varying in position as it's going up and down. The circle over here is varying in scale as it is decreasing and increasing in size. The polygon over here is rotating continuously, and the star over here is flashing in opacity. Its opacity is decreasing and increasing with time. So how's all this happening? This is all happening as we have animated these simple objects, and so that to create motion. In After Effects, motion or animation is created using keyframes, and position, scale, rotation, and opacity are the basic functions which you can use to animate objects. We'll be looking at each of these properties. Okay, so let's come to the rectangle, which is our first shape. So if we click on the rectangle layer over here, you can see that the rectangle in the composition panel is also selected. Now, if I click the small triangle button here carefully, we can see there's a drop down menu which has contents and transform. Our animation properties of position, scale, rotation, and opacity are always under the transform menu. So as you can see, we have our position, scale, rotation, and opacity properties over here under the transform menu. Okay, so from here we can apply all these properties to any layer in After Effects. So as in this case, for the rectangle, we can see that the position is being animated for the rectangle shape. So the keyframes for position are applied in the case of the rectangle, which is right here. Now, if you close this and come to the circle and click on the small drop down icon here, go to transform, we can see that the scale is active over here as the scale of this shape is being animated. So we have the scale keyframes over here on the timeline panel. Now if we come to the polygon, click the drop down and go to transform, we can see that the rotation keyframes are applied. And similarly, if we go to the star shape, click on the drop down, go to transform, we can see that the opacity keyframes are applied on the star shape. So if you want to view the keyframes, all the keyframes that are applied, and so that for better understanding, we've got to press the U button on our keyboard, and this will reveal all the keyframes and all the properties applied to the shapes. As in the rectangle, position keyframes for position are applied. In the circle, keyframes for scale are applied. For the polygon, rotation keyframes, and for the star, opacity keyframes. So this is how animations are done using keyframes in After Effects. And it is important to note that the transform properties, which are position, scale, rotation, and opacity, are present in every type of media or object in After Effects. So you can animate the position, scale, rotation, and opacity for any kind of media or object in After Effects. And everything is done right here in our timeline panel. Okay, so now we'll take a closer look at how to create such a project. So for that, I'll create a new composition here by right clicking and creating a new composition. The settings are fine, and I'll click OK. I'll name this to practice project. Click OK. And now we have our new composition open right here. Now we'll learn how to animate an object or a shape layer using these basic animation principles of position, scale, rotation, and opacity, which we just learned. So I'll create a new shape layer. Let's say a star. And click on the layer. Click on the drop down. Click on the transform drop down. And here we have our animation properties. So it is this place where we drop the keyframes in and animate the object or the shape layer however we want. So let's say if I want this star to move from here to here over the right end of the screen. So it is obvious that we will animate the position of this star so that it moves from its initial position to the right hand side of the screen. So what I'll do is click on the small stopwatch icon next to the position. Upon click, I will notice that a keyframe is dropped over here, which means that the star has a position and at 0 seconds in the timeline, and the position is over here where the star is right now. Now if I want this star to move to the right end of the screen, so I'll move forward in time by scrubbing the time indicator a bit to 4 seconds, let's say, and increase the value of position by scrubbing my mouse to the right. And now I can see that the star is moved to the right end of the screen. And upon doing this, you can see that a keyframe is applied to the current position of the star. If I scroll through, you can see that the star moves from the left to the right end of the screen. And all this happened because of the keyframes. So this is how we animated the position of the star. Now let's say if I want the star to decrease in size as it moves from the left to the right. So I'll drop a keyframe for scale, which means that at this position at 0 seconds in time, the star would be of the scale as it is now in the composition panel over here. Now, if I move forward in time, right below the position keyframe over here, and I want the star to decrease in size as it moves, so I'll simply reduce the value of scale over here by moving the mouse to the left. Now as you can see that it went out of the composition as the anchor point is over here. So to move the anchor point to the center of the star, we need to control and hit double click on the pan behind tool right over here. And this brings the anchor point to the center of the star. So let's bring the position over here so that it's visible to us. Okay, and now we can decrease the scale. Okay, so now we can see that as the star moves from left to the right, it decreases in scale as we applied the keyframes for scale to the shape layer. Now, if I want my star to rotate as it moves along the path from left to right, I'll drop a keyframe for the rotation property, move forward in time, and increase the rotation value. And this is how we animate the rotation property of the object. Okay, now let's have a look at opacity. Drop a keyframe for opacity, move forward in time, and let's say we want to decrease the opacity to 20%. And you can see a keyframe is dropped over here, and as we move the time indicator, we can see that the star decreases in opacity as it moves from the left to the right. If I preview the animation pressing spacebar on my keyboard, we can see all the animation properties which are applied to the animation, which is the position, scale, rotation, and opacity. So this is how we created a basic animation by understanding the basic animation principles in After Effects. Thank you.